Hello, my name's Penny and this is Penelope's Chinwag. Just in case you're new here, we have a chat about my week, chat about my crafting. I'm reading you my story. We're starting in 1964 this week, my diary years, but more about that later. And there's a little film at the end. So please join me for this week's episode of Penelope's Chinwag. Well, thanks for joining me. And I think first of all for this episode, we'll go over to my chat about my crafting. It's been a bit of a mixed bag and I'll explain to you all about that. Well, craft-wise, I haven't got too much to show you. It's been, you know how you have those weeks? Some weeks go so smoothly and some weeks don't. I've got a few things, a couple of things a few things I really need to do craft-wise, and I intend on starting on those this week. Both my girls wanted a Beatrix Potter quilt. I made one for Tommy's cousin. Yes, she's born now, as you know, and for her nan, her great nan. And it's lovely. And both the girls, my girls, Kim and Nicola, both said, Mum, we have to have one in our lives. So I've got those to quilt. But I have got some friends coming to stay in June. And I thought, that's ideal to do when I'm just sitting chatting, don't have to think. So although that's to do, yes, it can wait. What else have I got? Yes, in lockdown, my daughter wasn't a crafter, Kim, and I said, why don't you try this and why don't you try that? Now she's an avid crochet person and she did a beautiful quilt with the embroideries, those small little embroideries. And anyway, she did all the embroideries, put it together, but it needs quilting, and she doesn't feel she wants to quilt it now. She's so much into her crochet. So I said I'd do it for her. That won't take long. Well, shall I leave that for when my friends come down too? I'll see, but that's on the pile to do. The other thing I really want to do is make an emotional support chicken for my great-granddaughter. When she was here visiting for the day, she just took to it. I said, you tell the chicken how you're feeling, and if you're feeling emotional, she'll support you. Oh, yes. And she told her nan, and everybody tried the emotional support chicken. And I felt it would be nice to make one for her and to give it to her. I think it's just something in me. I think it would be good. In Kent, where I live, we have the Romney Marshes. They're quite away from us because Kent's a big county. But when Georgina was visiting, she brought this for me. And it's a beautiful wool and it's ideal. Romney Marsh wools, 100% pure British Romney lamb wool, hand wash only. I've got a ball that colour and a ball that colour. And I thought I'd do the stripes with this. Actually, it's a beautiful, I've had it some time. It's a Louise Harding, Grace hand beaded, 31% silk, 31% merino wool, and the rest glass beads. But I thought that would go nicely for the chicken. So that's on my table to be done, to be started. No rush, is there? So it'd be nice to have something to give to her when I see her next. But what have I been doing? That's what I want to do. What have I been doing this week? Well, I saw something and I thought, I fancy doing that. Only took me 15 minutes. I've got these old-fashioned mill spools. I've got big ones and small ones. This is a small one. And so I just made this of all the fabric that's in Georgina's quilt. You see if I can show you. And there it is. I like it. Very easy to do. I mean, I literally just shoved it on the back of, on the front of some nice linen. It's a stiffish linen. And just placed them all on and went up and down on my machine. It was quite fun for about 15 minutes. La, 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 la. Peach said, "Oh, how long are you going to go?" Wonky lines, just secured everything down. And there you are. On the spool, I thought she could tell Mila what the spool is about and where it came from, from the mills. And yeah, just a little something to go with the quilt. So I've done that this week. I just got it in my head. Do you ever do that? Woke up in the morning and thought, right, let's get that. And I had all the bits saved, in a pot. And then I just put that bit on the end and you wrap that round. But it's, antique. That sort of just grips, actually. Don't even have to tuck it in. That's just a little memory. So I did that. And then I wanted to knit. I think it's called, I'll put it on the screen. I think it's called Fly Away. It's Fly Away something. Oh, I've forgotten. Anyway, it's on the screen now. You can see. And a kind viewer said that's what she was knitting. And I looked at the pattern and thought, oh, I want to knit that. And so I cast on, with the wool from John Arbon. But it's not the right wool for the pattern. Not in my book. Pete says he likes it. I wanted a very, very pale pink, but it hasn't turned out to be that. It's got this sort of overriding black bits in. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be, but that's how it is. It definitely looks. I just feel it's too bulky in real life. Well, having said that, it's quite nice. But I didn't feel it was the right wool for the pattern, so I'm going to undo it. You'll probably say you like it, but it is very lovely wool. There's something about the pattern and the wool that I didn't like together. So I'm going to undo that and knit something else. I hope I like what I knit with it. So that's what I've been doing, but I'm going to undo it. So that's my crafting table for this week. I've decided what to knit with the wool, and I've started it, and so far it's looking much better. I think the wool with the colours in it, it's just too much with that pattern. I think you need a very plain wool so the pattern shows itself, if you see what I mean. So I've started the Dahlia cardigan by Le Knit. I'll put a photo of it up here, and you see it's got round the yoke. It's pretty pattern, knitted top down. So I've just started knitting that yoke, and so far it's looking nice. And then the rest of it's plain, and I think that'll suit the wool. We'll just have to see, but that's where I am with that. So I haven't started the emotional chicken yet. And of course, I've had second thoughts about using this wool. But on the other hand, I mean, I think it will be nice. So we'll see. Watch this space. I'll let you know next week. So I'm reading now my book from 1964, and I'm going to put that film up of recording, and then I'll come back and we'll have a good old heart-to-heart chat. I'll see you after. So I'm reading my diary years, and I must say that there's a huge mixture of emotions as I read it. It's not about what I'm well, how can I say it? The emotions are not because I'm linking myself back there, but because, oh my goodness, what will you think of me? I mean, here I am, a perfectly respectable woman. I've been married coming up for 57 years. I've got 2 children, 5 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren, and I'm quite well respected. But I'm going back to 1964, and things were different, and I was different. I was finding out about the world. I was finding out about me. I did so many things wrong. Were they wrong? Was it just part of growing up? Well, I'll just have to get to it and read it and see what you think. My diary years. In 1964, I decided to keep a diary. Before writing this book, I hesitated to read it, as at first glance it comprised boys' names and not much else. But now, of course, I'm glad I kept it and have found it invaluable in helping me to recall how things were. I saw the newsreel of the Beatles being mobbed by fans at Kennedy Airport in New York on the 8th of February, but never took much notice of the fact that in South Africa, Nelson Mandela was imprisoned. I do remember our new Prime Minister, Harold Wilson, coming to power in October. Life in the 60s was beginning to change. Television was still in black and white, and only 1 person in 12 went to university, and most of those were boys, but teenagers were really beginning to be heard. Family traditions were being broken down, although in my house things were going on in much the same way. However, life felt exciting. Adult authority was beginning to be challenged. The inhibitions of the 1950s were being dropped, and anything went. This seems hard to imagine now, as we live in a day and age when almost nothing is shocking. But back then, it was revolutionary. Women were still paid less than men for the same job, and opportunities for women were starting to open up. Mary Quant designed clothes that were so different. Diz and I couldn't afford anything much in 1964. Well, we only had our pocket money, but we copied designs, and we were definitely up there in the fashion stakes. Boutiques were opening up everywhere. London was the fashion centre of the world, so it's been said. Mods formed gangs, as did rockers, and they fought each other practically anywhere, but particularly at the seaside. Clacton and Margate were inundated at the weekends. I never went anywhere near that. Dad found a newspaper cutting and accused me of going, as he said it looked like me, but he knew it wasn't. Well, that's the flavour of London when I decided to keep a record of what I was doing and where I was going. In the January of 1964, I used to go to a local coffee bar called the Bezaz. This was a few doors down from the Wimpy Bar, which was a new, bright, and family-oriented eating place, and so for us, obviously boring. Mum and Dad felt happy to let me go there, but didn't want me to go to the Bezaz, which was a coffee bar with dimmed lighting and had a jukebox in the corner. They thought I'd meet up with the wrong type of people. But really it was fine and felt cool, or as we used to say, with it. I was a schoolgirl who'd led a sheltered life, but most of the people there were the same. Young teenagers out for their first foray. My first entry for 1964 is in the Bezaz. On January the 1st, Gene Pitney's 24 Hours from Tulsa was playing on the jukebox. A boy called Mick Clark asked me out, and I said yes. Well, hardly likely to say no, as our sole reason for being there was to meet someone. I remember he was very young, blonde. Well, he was sweet. He was kissable. He was a boy. And that's all that mattered. About this time, I remember asking Mum for some money to go to London to buy some clothes. She gave me £5. That's a lot of money. And I spent it on a modern hat in John Lewis. A hat, she said when I returned. I think she was cross with me for not spending the money more wisely. That hat was the start of me wanting good quality, modern clothes. It was like a cap in the shape of a mushroom with a little stalk sticking up in the middle. Very chic, or so I thought. When we went out in the evening, we mostly went to the pictures, the Bezaz, or St. Paul's and St. Stephen's. These were church halls in Enfield where groups would play, soft drinks would be served, and we would dance. Dad always wanted to pick me up in the car, but I flatly refused. Sometimes he won, but I made him park round the corner. One night he pulled up a bit late outside St. Stephen's, and when he saw I was with some boys, he went mad, especially when one kissed me, but he soon got used to the new phase of his little girl's life. My diary entry from March the 19th is Mick came, kissed him twice. The next day, March the 20th, an entry is gave Mick up. Took it quite well. Went to St. Paul's. Sure, Mum knows. Told Mum he gave me up. So my friendship with Mick lasted 3.5 months. 2 days later, Alan Brady asked me out, and we went to the pictures to see Zulu. Mum also found out that I'd finished my relationship with Mick, and my entry is row. Very upset. I couldn't get the hang of what Mum was saying about going out with people and then giving them up, not being right. Of course it was right. Going out with someone didn't mean you wanted to spend the rest of your life with them. In fact, 12 days later, Alan gave me up, and I spent the next few months mooning over him. It was just childish relationships, but for me, going to an all-girls school felt exciting. Our family motto was honest. If any one of us said honest after our statement, then it had to be true. And nobody ever broke the rule. It wouldn't have been right. I often remember hoping Mum or Dad wouldn't ask me where I'd been and who with. Generally, they didn't. I remember one day writing a list of boyfriends I had and putting them into 2 columns. One column was headed GMU and the other headed GHU. One evening, Dad called me into the front room, asked me to sit down, and asked me what it meant. Yes, he'd found the list. I honestly couldn't remember. My mind panicked, and I said I didn't know. Back to school and not being able to think on the spot or under pressure. Dad had obviously deduced what he thought it meant and didn't like his conclusions. When he said, honest, I said, honest? Honest, Dad? And that was the end of it. Of course, I remembered afterwards. It was gave me up and gave him up. Obvious. Nothing too bad. It seemed to come on all of a sudden, didn't it? This boy phase. Maybe it was being allowed out in the evenings with Diz. It wasn't too far from home. You know, how far would it be? Half-hour walk. We might have got the bus to the top of the road and then walk back down Selborne Road. But there we go. 14, felt grown up, and Mum and Dad trusted us. They had good reason to trust me. I don't think I'd have done anything too silly. And these boys, well, that's what they were. They were boys. They weren't men. And to be honest, it wasn't like we had, social media and all that we've got now. We were just a couple of young girls going to the coffee bar. Well, I didn't drink coffee. Had a cup of tea probably, or Coca-Cola, anything, listen to Gene Pitney, the Beatles on the jukebox, and met up with a few boys. Went dancing at the local church halls. Good groups. They were really good groups. And we had fun. Dad picking me up and going home. All I can say to that is, well, I don't know. I think I might have to stop reading my book. But there we are. It's just part of growing up, isn't it? Yeah, I'm a bit speechless, really. A bit speechless that, when you're 14, going at 14, 15, you're so young, aren't you? But there we are. I wasn't so young in those days. I was quite grown up, and that's how it was. Completely different world. And that's all I can say about it. I think that's the end of the subject. I have got my diary here. Here it is. The Rolling Stones on it. Oh, dear. I've got a picture of George Harrison in the front. And then I was talking about this guy, Alan, who gave me up. And there's a little page here. Cats and dogs, how to train them. And I put, and Alan. So I obviously, Budgerigars or Alan. I was obviously absolutely obsessed with this Alan who gave me up. But what can you say? That was life, wasn't it? So that was the early part of 1964 that I read you. And school was awful, I said. Yeah, oh dear. There's my little diary with my writing in. And it's all much of a muchness, really. But if we get through the boys, then it might get a bit more interesting. So what have I got to say? Well, after Mum died, there was all sorted out, but there was one suitcase left, and that's been in my bathroom now for a couple of years, and it was time, and I felt strong enough. And it's been such a weight. I opened the suitcase with fear and trepidation what it was in there. I just couldn't remember. Did I tell you this? Have I told you that? Anyway, it was all photographs. So I've been looking through. I think I did mention it last time. I've been looking through the photographs. And some of them are precious and will be put in a precious box. And others are just general. Obviously, I'm not throwing them away. I'd never throw any away. But they're just general. So I'm going to get a box for just general photographs. I'll show you one here. This is Mummy. I've written Mummy on the top. Mummy 1962. And it was one of her dinner and dances. She's got that beautiful dress on I loved, that rustled, the black taffeta with the little red rosebuds on. But isn't it interesting? Look at this. All the women cuddling a chimp. I mean, can you imagine that nowadays? Talk about how times have changed. It's just unimaginable, isn't it? Well, I thought that was quite showing of its time, really, 1962. And I think there's another one here. Oh, yes. The 5 generations. My mum, me, Kim, Georgina, and baby. And I knitted baby's shawl in Jameson and Smith. You know, the one that you can get through a wedding ring. You know, that really, really, really fine. And she's holding baby. This was the 10th of December, and it was absolutely wonderful, 2019, because Mum came on the train. I said, Mum, shall we go up there and see Kim and the baby? Oh, yes. We got Mum on a train. I mean, you know, she'd almost lost her sight. And anyway, she did it. And there's the shawl. So that little girl is 5 and a bit now. 5 and, well, yes, 5 and she can read fluently, and I want to make her an emotional support chicken, as I said. So time passes, doesn't it? I bought myself some new sunglasses this week. They're prescription so that I can see distance. I don't need glasses for close, but I need them for distance. Well, you'll laugh when you see them. I've gone for something quite outrageous. What do you think? Blue. What do you think? Yeah. Well, I thought let's cut the sun out. Yeah. So I can see down the garden. Oh, it's the most gorgeous day here. Gorgeous, gorgeous day. Oh, the rooks are not the rooks. Yeah, the rooks are still fishing in the pond. I think they must have eaten every single, you know, what do you call them? Not frogs. I've forgotten the name now. I'll have to put it on the screen. You can tell I'm going to have to go. Anyway, it's lovely to see you. And I'm putting my story now into a playlist because if you want to just listen to me reading something, well, I'm reading my story, because what else could I read? I couldn't read anything else because it's all copyrighted, isn't it? But my story isn't. So if you did want to, and I know some of you have, and thank you, I'm going to, as I read it each time, I'm going to pop it in its playlist. And then if you click on playlist, it will come up one after the other. That's on my homepage. There's also the playlist for how to make a macaron, and how to knit socks, and how to make a quilt if you're a complete beginner. There's a playlist of all the little films that I put up just with the music, and then there's a playlist of all these episodes right back to episode 1, starting at episode 1. So should you so desire any of that, just click on the home page, go down to playlists, click on playlist, and it'll be there. So, do you know, isn't it funny how we forget words that we use all the time? Newt, that's what it is. Our newts, they're eating every single one of the newts in the pond, and it's not nice to see. They stand on the stones for hours. Anyway, I'm going to go. And the little film, we went this morning for our there and back walk. We didn't get as far as town. We just got as far as the harbour, but everybody was out enjoying the sunshine. The can't think of my words this afternoon. The beach huts were all back. They're all getting back. Just the last few arriving. Everybody enjoying themselves. I think there is a shot of Bleak House. Do you remember? Dickens stayed there, and I think with his friend Wilkie Collins, who I mentioned last week. And I have got the book out, The Moonstone, because it's a super book, and I'm going to start reading it again. And Anyway, he was Dickens' best friend, and I think they stayed in, well, they did. They stayed in Bleak House, which is why it's called that. I think it was originally Fort House, but after he wrote Bleak House there, that's what it's changed to. And you can go there and have a coffee now, and apparently it's very nice, so we might do that one day. Not that we tend to have tea and coffee out, we don't. And you know, I'm a funny person, why would I? I've got a perfectly lovely home and I can sit and have tea and coffee here. Yeah, that's not being mean, that's just being, I'd rather sit at home and have one. Anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you. That's what the film is, the there and back. I know you've seen it all before, but the sun's shining this time. The sea's not rough. Take good care of yourselves. Thanks for being here. And yeah, what a lovely group of people I've got that join me for Penelope's Chinwag each week. See you soon. Bye-bye.